It's 9 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Board of Leavenworth County Commissioners. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to have a moment of silence, please. Roll call. Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Smith are present. I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule to be here today. And we'll open up the public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and we'll move on to administrative business.
The first item on administrative business is the recognition of an employee in the Planning and Zoning Department, Crystal Voth. She has attained her American Institute of Certified Planners certificate. Is that right? It's a certificate?
So,
certification?
Certificate. Okay. And didn't know if Jeff would like to say a couple of words about that.
I thought Crystal was going to make the speech.
I'll be next.
Oh.
I'm proud to announce Crystal has passed the AICP exam, which is a really tough exam to pass, and she's certified now. So she's an asset to our department and the county. Congratulations to her.
Well, I think that it should go out. It's always good when an employee shows initiative to continue education and still remain at the county and not leave us.
Yeah, that's good.
Get any ideas?
Good point.
So,
I am very proud to represent Leavenworth County. I'm not from here, obviously, everybody knows that, but I consider this my home. I love this county. I love representing it. I love working here. I'm proud to bring an additional asset and hopefully can continue on here for a long, long time.
all right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to remind everybody that next week's meeting was moved to the evening meeting to accommodate the Mid-America Regional Council meetings that you all have. So just a reminder, next week is not our typical evening meeting, so it's a little off schedule, but we will be meeting at 5:30 on the 18th. And then last item under administrative business that we have would be the notification of budget amendments, and I can let the clerk speak on that.
I plan on publishing this week for some budget amendments, which we do each year. We will have our budget hearing on December the 27th at 9:15. And at that time, we'll be open for any questions that you may have. I'll have a packet available.
Okay. And we'll know where all the carryover, it'll be identified where it's going to go.
We do have two spreadsheets that we've worked on that shows leftover budget authority plus cash that we have on top of what we budgeted.
So there is carryover. Is there significant carryover?
Yes, it was a very tight budget year, I have to say, in reviewing all the departments' budgets, but we do have carryover in the general fund. Our road and bridge department did an excellent job this year. We can look at transferring some of those funds, if you would like to, into the capital improvement program for whatever roads that the board decides to designate. Solid waste, we will be amending their budget, but on top of amending their budget, it's because they had additional revenue that came in, so.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everything else?
That's all I had under administrative business.
Well, I just had one. Are we going to be updated on all these PRP signatures and donation of easements?
Yes, we have until the end of the year. That's what the commission had signed. So shortly after probably the first week or second week in January, we'll have an update on where we're at with all the signatures and what that means for those programs.
Okay, I'd like to know before that in case there's a holdout or two that we can work on.
Well, I think that's even after the first of the year, that gives the board still has that authority to do that.
And I had one question. 174th and Evans is in phase, between Evans and State, is in phase 2. That should be in PRP, shouldn't it?
Well, I think once they're approved from the PRP, they move into one of those phases.
Okay, so they have 100%.
You're asking me a question I don't know the answer
Okay.
to on that one. I would have to verify that with the with Public Works Department.
Okay, all right. That's all I have. Any other administrative business? Okay. All right. Consent agenda, have you had a chance to look at the minutes and
I have.
check registry? Any questions?
No.
Okay.
Motion to approve? Or are you asking for a
Yes,
motion?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Motion to approve?
Consent agenda?
Yes.
I'll second that. How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on. We ready to talk about the boundaries again?
In your packet, you have two resolutions that were, I'm sorry. In your packet, you have two resolutions that were requested per the last meeting. The two resolutions represent the maps that I displayed last week. One includes Alexandria Township in the new 5th district. One does not. That is the only difference between the two resolutions.
We don't have the maps today, but I'm sure everybody's seen them.
Okay.
Well, I mean, a big
This
map
is-
for everybody.
One of the map, this is the original map that you put on the,
Yes, it is.
yeah.
Yes.
I took the time last week to visit with the county clerk and David Van Paris, and that brings up something else. I'll address that before. I had a phone call from a gentleman, and he watches us on YouTube, and he would like, he says, who are those people sitting down in the front? And I said, well, one's a county administrator, one's a county counselor, and one's the county clerk. And he says, you know, it would help if they would say their name so that we know who's talking, and because we don't always know a face. And just something to throw out.
Okay.
I can speak for myself, and I'll certainly do that in the future if that would help the public.
Yeah. It's just, and I thought that was kind of the right thing to do. I mean, a lot of people don't make it into the courthouse, especially if they're disabled or so busy they just use the mail, and then they don't have a chance to meet you firsthand, or David or Mark.
Most people have jobs out trying to earn some money to pay their taxes.
Don't say that.
Well, we're hoping that's why they can't come to our meeting.
Well, I hope they can, but not always possible.
But most people here are retired. And I'm speaking for Mr. Culberson back there. But it is hard for people to take off time during
Right.
the day to get to a meeting.
So, and I think it does help them
And that's why
understand what's going
I
on.
like the one meeting a month at night, one meeting at night a month. So. And it's got more people involved.
Right, it has. beside myself there. I did have, last week, I made a point to visit with, on these mappings, and I visited with David Van Paris, our county counselor, and Janet Klasinski, our clerk, and they both had very good presentations to me, and as they did a good job, but I see good points and bad points about both maps, and I think the map that was originally come out is a more complete map that I think would help this county. I know I've probably got several phone calls, and they just left a message on there, want to talk about the maps. I did return their phone calls, but nobody answered. I left a message, haven't heard back. So I don't know really what they were wanting, or what they were wanting me to say, that they wanted to go with the map that I'm proposing, or if they were not. The map that I liked best is the original one, and I think the clerk and I kind of agree on that, and it's more compact. There's two criteria to these mappings. One of them is that they're compact, and the other is the number of people in the area. I think that, like I say, I think there's good and bad points about both maps, but we just can't be perfect right now until we have another census. And so I know Mr. Smith has his reasonings, and that's how, I've looked at him, looked at your way, and I still think that this map here is the better map for the county right now. It's going to be a short-term map for the districts. It's nothing that's going to be locked in for years to come. It's something that's just going to be a temporary map. 2 years till we remap it?
That is correct. We will be redistricting after the 2020 census.
Right. So it's nothing that's going to, I don't think it's going to impact a lot of people for such a short period of time.
Well, Bob, there's actually 3 things to look at. It's
Okay.
compactness,
Yeah.
population, and we can't rule out the gerrymandering. And I don't feel like we're gerrymandering, because we're not giving one political party an advantage, or we're not weakening another one.
I agree.
And we're not dividing a group or a region based on.
Well, I know the first meeting we had, there was someone in here, and they were actually asking us to gerrymander.
Right, and
As
we're
far
not
as
going
I'm
to do that,
concerned.
and we didn't.
And we have not gerrymandered this. We were looking at just the 2 criteria that is what we have to look at. And gerrymandering is not anything that we need to look at, or I'm not going to look at it.
Right, but it's part of the process. So,
Yeah.
you got to make sure you're not doing it,
Right.
even if you're inadvertently doing it. But if you go to the Attorney General's website and look up any cases on this, and it's basically has been challenged by population only. There hasn't been a lot of challenges about being compact. And I feel if we're doing township lines, we are doing compact. These are compact.
I don't see how you say it can be compact when you're starting up at the north end of the county, clear down into
Not all the way
Reno
to
County.
north. Well, but in the 80s, 3rd District, the south part of the county took in all of Delaware Township. I believe it came up to Spruce. Am I right on that? So it's not the first time the southern part of the county didn't have enough population that they had to go to the northern part.
I did check that this morning, and it was pretty interesting to look at 3rd District. It did include all of Lansing, all of Delaware. It did come up into Leavenworth City. It did not go as far as Spruce, but it did go up into Leavenworth City.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, I mean,
So it's not the first time that the southern part of the county didn't have enough population to have a district. And now that you're adding one, we don't have it now. So we have to go where the population is. And whenever you redistrict for representative districts or anything, it's based on population. You know, when we redraw the lines after a census, it's always on population. So I think population needs to be the most important factor in deciding this.
Well, population is important, but so is compactness. I mean, if you stretch this thing out the length of the county, that's not what I consider compactness. The map here definitely shows compactness.
Right, but there's a 22% difference in population.
I checked the figures, but I don't see the 22%, but
What is the actual number? Am I close on the 22%?
I checked, you may be close on that first one. I did check the second one that includes Alexandria, and there's about a 14.5% difference, and I did not check the figures on the first one. It probably is 20 or 22%. The second one does show a 14.5 or 15%.
14.5 is what we discussed the other day.
So, because I did run
That's
those.
still a pretty good difference. I mean, 5% passed the courts, right? This would be David Van Perry's county counselor, senior county
Members
counselor.
of the commission, I am David Van Paris, commonly known as such. I've provided you both testimony as well as 2 memorandum on this issue. Again, the 2 criteria the courts have used as compact and equal in population as possible. Exact measurement in population is recognized as being virtually impossible. That's more or less the extent of the guidance I can provide to you on this. The courts and the AG opinions are consistent in that it is at the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners as to how to meet that constitutional and statutory mandate.
And there is cases that 40% or 44% was not acceptable.
There was a case out of 1968 out of Crawford County where 50% of the population of the county was in one district. The U.S. District Court found that to be in violation of the Constitution and more or less took over the election, which is something I think we'd wish to avoid in this instance.
Okay. Well, I think population should be the deciding factor. If you'd like to speak, please come forward and state your name so everybody knows you.
Speak from here, I'll speak aloud.
Well, they can't see you on the,
All right.
and we want to make sure that everybody gets to see you that are watching.
My name is Bill Mason, I live in Lansing. If I understand what we have been told in previous meetings, that the county clerk is restricted in splitting voting districts. Therefore, there's never, to me, any way you're going to be able, if she can't split districts into small factions, how you're going to get to what is supposedly the desired 5% population variances. So if you can't do that, and you're going to have big variances until she can do something with the districting or the drawing of the boundaries for the voting districts, precincts, or wards, then I think compactness takes priority over population, because you cannot meet the population goal with the current restrictions.
But we can get close.
How?
By
She says she cannot.
By adding Alexander Township, we're cutting it in half. We're at 22%, just about half.
No, we're at 14.5 to
Right.
15.
Right.
But
14
22% is a lot more than 14%.
Where's 22%?
If we do not add Alexander Township, there's a difference of 22% between the 3rd district and or the 5th district and the 1st district.
I don't recall that, and I ran the numbers with my calculator, and I come up with what she said and Commissioner said. It comes down to 15%.
It's 15% with Alexandria Township in the new 5th district.
And without it, it's like 22%. So we're
Well-
getting closer.
You're getting closer, but you still haven't met the criteria of 5% to 10%. So let's talk strongly about compactness. Because if the district in Basel is fairly compact with the rest of it, and you have to look at the redistricting in 21, I guess it is,
Yeah,
2021. I think you're going to look at that time potentially of taking Sherman Township as part of the Basel district. You know, I believe there is, just driving through down there is growth that's going to dictate that they become part of the Basel district. I think another factor is the way it's growing down there, that potentially Basel is looking at another high school in not the far distant future. And I think it just makes it easier if Sherman Township is combined with the Basel district. And again, if you can't get something less than 15% with the restrictions of not splitting the precincts or the voting areas, then take the 22% and move on. You know, what is the district judge going to decide? He's going to be bound by the same thing you're bound by right now, and that's I don't think he can split voting areas.
No.
So he's got two choices. He either takes Alexandria and moves it south, or he said no, he's going to go with compactness and leave Alexandria in the north.
Right.
That's all I have to say.
And in 2020, when we do the census, what is going to determine the lines? It'll be the population.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Oh, so in 2020, we don't have to do the population, redo the
You'll
districting?
do the population in
But
2021.
it'll be a
you'll
new
have
population.
census which may, if I understand the clerk, she can possibly do something with drawing the precincts.
Yeah, but it's going to be based on population.
You have better
And it
numbers
still will be,
population after
it still will be based on compactness.
And population. The number one thing for the census is the population. That's when you redo the districts.
Number
It's
one
based
thing
on
for him
population.
Has been compactness and secondary population.
Well, I don't think we're going to agree on this, Bob, so we're going to have to wait till we get another commissioner. Because I believe 100% that it's based on population.
When's that gonna happen? When will the new commissioner second this deal there?
Should be by the 27th. So we will make our
So we'll
deadline.
meet that deadline for the.
Yes, sir, we
judge
will.
To make a decision.
Yes, we will.
And I'm all for that. I mean, I don't want the judge to make our decision. I want us to make the decision. And I don't think the judge wants to make the decision, as I have talked to them, and they're not interested in it.
I agree. You need to make the decision. The board needs to make the decision. The 27th, Vicki Cos will join the board, and at that time, because I also don't believe that there will be a decision made today or next week. So if it's all right, I will just wait and bring the 2 resolutions back to the board on the 27th, unless you would like another presentation next week.
There's no sense in wasting everybody's time.
That's what I say. Just wait
Yeah,
till the
let's just-
27th.
Let's go to the 27th.
Okay, we will add that to the agenda then on the 27th.
All right. Thank you. Ready for Mr. Marlborough?
Unless you want to wait till the 27th.
I'd be happy to wait if you'd like. Good morning.
Good morning, Larry.
IS Department, I'm Larry Marlborough, for our fans. We've been working on the district court project since November, replacing their workstations. That project's still underway, a lot of work to be done. We've finished replacing the core routers and the voice gateways. The Cisco project, the board had approved, I believe in June of this year. Use of the FTR system, which you may or may not be familiar with, which was the audio recording for the board meetings and the planning commission meetings, has been discontinued. I believe you were already notified by a citizen that the planning commission meetings are now available on the county's YouTube site. That is the case. That was done in part because of the FTR system being turned off. That was turned off because our video recordings were superior to the FTR recordings, and it was due for replacement. So it was savings of money not to work at upgrading the FTR and to simply use these recordings that we're making of the meetings. That's been working out rather well for the most part. I've been working on suitable accommodations for the commission's dais because of the increased commissioners. We're working on displays right now, so you'll have more monitors up there for when you're seeing a presentation on the board. And we're also going to be working on increasing the microphones.
We're going to have
microphones are
yeah,
very
we're going to
old.
have to have 2 more monitors and 2
We're
more
going to have
microphones.
5 displays up there for the commissioners to see, and we're going to replace the one that Becky's using. That monitor's horrible. She should have complained long before now. That's a horrible, horrible display.
It's been there as long as I have.
Maybe longer. I mean,
Maybe longer.
It really is terrible. When I saw it, I was kind of embarrassed that it's still plugged in, but we're going to take care of that. And then the microphones, of course, is the second issue. We're going to be increasing the number of microphones to 5, and we're trying to work out how we're going to handle that. Those are very old. When I looked at them,
I was going to say mine's got Scotch tape on it.
Yes, and that one, the piece falls off if you blow on it hard. We're going to replace these microphones, and we're going to add 2 more, so there should be better coverage, which will also help your planning commission, because they have 9 people that sit up across that dais at the planning commission.
And how's the sound out there? Can everybody hear us okay?
I'm half deaf, and you sounded really good
Okay.
earlier.
I know we had problems earlier.
It's not so much a problem hearing you guys if you are directly speaking into your microphone. If
Okay.
you're laying back in your chair, nobody hears you. Through the speakers, they don't hear you.
Okay.
They're hearing you just because you have a loud voice.
Well, thank you, Glenn.
As far as the YouTube videos go, most of the audio comes through very well there, with the exception of when the audience starts participating from their seats.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't hear the question. You'll hear the answer, but you won't know what they were asking about. So that's a little problematic. Regarding the help desk, it's been extremely busy lately, which has delayed our district court project because they have to do deployments as well as take care of the routine day-to-day tickets, and we've been getting a lot of tickets for some bizarre reason lately. People are having a lot more trouble than they normally do. If I can figure out what's causing that, I will definitely put a stop to it. Future projects, I intend to replace the Exchange server in the next few months. I've started that process, which will affect email, calendars, and whatnot for every county employee. That's all I wanted to bring to your attention. Do you have any questions of myself?
Oh, last month when we received an influx of emails, some of them were pretty colorful. Is there any way to, some of the words they put in them emails not to show up?
Not.
Is there a filter?
Well, they're sort of is. I could theoretically stop any email by doing keyword searches, but then you wouldn't get the message at all, which may be what you
Some of
would
the
prefer.
messages I didn't want to get.
I've gotten
I agree.
a lot of
Yeah,
those.
and they're not big words either.
I'm sure they're not. Most of it's like 4 and 5 letters, I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it'd be rather burdensome to try to put together a list of words and have the email filtering do that. I think it's possible.
Okay.
We've not done it today. We usually just target specific individuals that we've blocked after they've repeatedly sent something.
Well, these
offensive.
people from all over the United States, so it's not locals.
I'm hoping that those emails have stopped.
They have, but it was, I'm sure you've seen the load of them that came in. So, anyways, I don't have any more questions.
That's it for me.
All right. Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Last but not least, Mr. Miller. We'll try to get you out of here so you can go to the health department. Be seen.
Jamie Miller, EMS and Health Department Director. I apologize, I'm under the weather today, so I provided reports from both departments. We'll start with the Health Department.
Okay.
Provided the standard report that I do on a quarterly basis. This is my third quarter report. It was delayed just for some scheduling issues. Budgetary, there was for the Health Department, just so you are aware, there will be a budget amendment for the Health Department. We are one of those also that took in some additional revenues through grants that needed to have those spent in this year, so that will happen. I worked with the clerk's office on that. Required user fees, we did collect our user fees required for the Health Department, and we are on track with all of our grants. Statistically, we're on track as well for the year. As you can see, we caught up in the third quarter due to immunizations just like normal. And I'm not going to read through all the items there, but you can read through the items.
I've read them already.
So that's the third quarter Health Department, unless you have any questions. We did, and again, Commissioner Smith went through the health assessment. We had about 125 people go through the health assessment at the county level. Again, it was a very good health assessment this year, and it ran very smooth. Again, it took about 30 minutes per person to go through.
It's a very thorough exam, I guess you'd call it. And the documentation they give you afterwards is really good. Some of it you don't want to read, but I wish every employee would go through that health assessment program. I really do. I think it would pay off in the long run on our health insurance and everything else. I mean, I hope that program continues and it grows.
And I will approach the commission again to provide that again for next year. And if we will, I've been working with the city of Lansing and potentially the city of Leavenworth, if they provide it, to use some of their dates as well as allowing some of theirs, so we would have more dates and more availability to our employees. So that's something that I'm working on.
As it grows, maybe we can get all the cities in the county to participate in it.
That's my plan.
How many could they run through, though, in an 8-hour day?
They can take up to 8 people every 15 minutes is what they can staff for. So
we'd have to, if we got everybody involved, it'd take a couple days. And
correct. It would probably have to turn into a 2-day event, which is fine. They're here the day before, and they'll work with whatever we want to do. So,
okay.
Moving on to EMS, same thing, same budget. We are right on track with our budget for the EMS department. Revenues are ahead of schedule on our revenue collection. Statistically, we are on track to go about 12.5, probably call volume for 2018. You can see all the, on page 3, some of the statistics that I provide with our response times and things of that nature. Again, additional items. We are in the process right now, in the hiring process for our last vacant paramedic position. We have 3 applicants for that. We had to wait until the paramedic schooling completed and they completed their certification. We have 3 applicants for that process. We did have a supervisor have to relocate back to Montana, back with some family issues and things of that nature. So we're also going through a supervisor promotional process from lieutenants and such. So December is kind of that busy time for us to backfill those positions, but starting in January, we should be back to full staffing.
Have we don't seem to have the trouble that we used to have several years ago when I was on the commission about retaining help. It seems like we're either doing a better job or paying better, but it doesn't seem like we've had the problems of years past. Is that, do you see that?
I think there's several factors involved with that.
Okay.
Obviously, as you can see, one of my bullet points is also some sponsored paramedics we're sponsoring. And currently I have 5 that I'm sponsoring in paramedic school. 2 will come available next spring and so on and so forth. So with that, a lot of those EMTs are also local employees. They've grown up here, they live here, this is their home. So being able to sponsor them through the paramedic program, we're more apt to retain them. We did address salary and things of that nature to become more competitive into the region, and that helps. So there's lots of factors I think that have gone into that, but you're correct. We've had a better year, definitely, in retaining, and again, as long as we're on track right now, in January we should be at full staffing.
Ambulances are doing okay?
As of right now, we're just day-to-day normal maintenance things, but everything is, we're okay.
This may be a buildings and grounds question, but how's the remodel coming in Tongi?
It's slow, but we're moving through. Obviously, it's a little slower just because we have to maintain 24 hours out of that station, so things have to be worked around us, if you will. So some of it's us driven, not necessarily contractor driven, and things of that nature. Drains have been poured, the bays are in, we're using the bay, garage doors in, decontamination room is completed. It's moving.
It's nice to have a job where a contractor doesn't come in with a change order. You have anything from Mr. Miller?
No, I don't.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business for the board?
I've got one question for Mark.
Okay.
I've heard from employees, Mark, I guess you negotiated our health care for the county. Did you help negotiate that with Blue Cross Blue Shield?
The healthcare policy for all employees, I don't know that I negotiated it. I think that we were offered a couple of different scenarios, which we brought to the board as part of the budget.
Anyway, I've heard several complaints that, especially on prescriptions and things like this, and I guess I finally kind of understand it because it happened to me. I went down to the local pharmacy and ordered a prescription that I take, and I take 1 pill in the morning and 1 pill in the evening. And they called me back and said, your prescription can't be refilled. And I said, well, the doctor already signed off on it and sent you the prescription. That's true. But your insurance company said that you can't take 2, you only can take 1 pill. Now, how is that possible that they can be the doctor instead of?
Well, I think we have had, first of all, during the renewal process, if you remember, the first renewal came in with like a 50% premium increase.
Right.
We tried to negotiate that down. They looked at a few things, but couple of the proposals that Blue Cross Blue Shield brought back in order to get us down into that 10 to 15% range includes the change to the prescription plan that you're referring to. And we've ran into this with some of the other employees, myself included. I had a family member who was on a prescription medication, and when we called in, the pharmacy said, your insurance company no longer covers that. It was the strength of the pill. We've worked with the pharmacy, and they were able to give us the same dosage, just in 2 tablets instead of 1. Because of patents or whatever, I don't understand it completely. Some of the other ones where the employees have come in with concerns is they're submitting items to insurance which are available over the counter, which would meet the flex spending account, but the insurance company says we're not going to cover those because they're available over the counter, and by the way, you can buy them much cheaper than what the pharmacy bills you at. I think we had some diabetic issues somebody had that when we looked it up, they could get 120 days for $40 online versus the $400 a month that the pharmacy was charging. So those are some of the things we've ran into, but there are challenges with it, but in order to continue to provide a benefit at all to the employees versus a 50% increase, those were some of the changes that had to be made. And we are trying to work through the HR department. Any employees who come in across that, we've asked them to notify them, and we will work directly with our insurance company to try to make sure that gets addressed.
I guess my point is since when does the Blue Cross Blue Shield become the doctor?
Well,
I mean, if my doctor says I need 1 pill in the morning and 1 pill in the evening, I
don't know the specifics.
Better than anybody.
I don't know the specifics. Obviously, your physician should be the person who's doing your prescribing, but it's possible that either that drug is available in a different strength or from a different provider. Maybe you are getting a non-generic and the insurance company saying we're only going to cover the generic. I don't know, but if you would bring that information in, the Human Resources Department would be happy to contact Blue Cross Blue Shield for you and work through that to make sure. And that's what we've informed all the employees. If they have these challenges, get us the specifics. We will work through it with them through Blue Cross Blue Shield. Obviously, there are HIPAA restrictions, so I really can't discuss anything in public with you unless you would like to.
It didn't bother me any.
I believe, didn't we have a pretty record year on insurance usage last year?
We had, on one of the plans, we had over 200% utilization.
Yeah.
On the other plan, it was fairly decent. But again, which is why they gave us such a high renewal back in, is it June? I think they came in with renewal. And our broker worked very hard with us and Blue Cross Blue Shield to try to come in with a plan that we could still afford. And that was really what it came down to, is some changes had to be made, absolutely, in order to continue to provide a benefit to the employees and not get a 50% increase, which would have mean then that the employee would have had to pick up a pretty big increase in what they paid per.
Well, I understand the changes have to be made, and I'm not disagreeing with that. One of my prescriptions I think was, used to be, I'd get a 90-day supply for $30.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get a 30-day supply for $45. And I was, I was all right with that because I knew the changes had to be made.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is since when does the insurance company become a doctor?
Right. And that shouldn't be the case. And that's why I say if you could bring in the specific details, we would be happy to work with you and contact Blue Cross Blue Shield and try to resolve what's going on with that instance.
I guess I guess we have a contract with them that we could.
Well, we have a contract, but those are typically month to month, and you can change them. But again,
I'm not asking it to be changed.
Yeah.
I'm just asking for some clarification.
Yeah.
Of
again,
how they become my physician all of a sudden.
If you would bring in the specific information, we'd be happy to contact Blue Cross Blue Shield and work through that with you. But they can't they can't dictate to you what medications you can take, but they do have a program that says this is what we'll pay. And again, without knowing the specifics, I really can't address it further than that.
And I remember going through some of this. Like I said, we raised our copay from 25 to 35, correct?
Right.
The copay change.
I don't remember too much about the pharmacy stuff. I do remember about they were really encouraging to use the mail order to get the.
Well, some of the changes that occurred, obviously, without going through every prescription that every employee has ever had, we wouldn't know how it was going to affect them individually. When we sat down with Blue Cross Blue Shield, they didn't necessarily have all the information, but it wasn't brought up that they were going to be telling you what you could and couldn't take. It was just that the coverage was going to change. And again, a lot of the items, what we found is there's an alternative that's offered, and that's why they're not covering it, or it's available over the counter now, so that you can go purchase it without using the insurance at usually cheaper than what you were paying through the insurance. So they've made those changes. They're a little more aggressive on that. But as far as telling you instead of your physician what you can take, that's not the case. And there's something we can work through that with you.
We'll just have to address it again when we renew, and hopefully we won't have a 200% usage next year.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Everybody needs to take that health assessment so we can be healthier. And we won't have to use the health insurance. Anything else?
I have
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.